is that? Well, we will find out, won't we, my friends? We will find out, as we do on most of these live streams. I start them and I raise the vibe, and we see where the energy takes me. So let's see where today takes me. But before anybody finds this, let's set the intention. Let's set it to raise your energy. So if you're watching now, ground yourself if you know how to do that. If you don't, just imagine a ball of light at the center of the earth and a cord connecting to the base of your spine. And as you're listening, slow down your breathing. Because, my friends, your breathing controls your mood. So, however way you experience this, you'll have a better experience if you slow down your breathing. So, a lot of people ask me, I've been asked on these live streams a lot, what is it you do, Adam? What do you do? Well, in simplicity, my friends, I show people how to feel better. That's it. That's what I do. That's what I spent most of my life doing. And that is what energy is often about. A lot of people ask what it is, how does it work? And there's lots of different ways. But in simplicity, slowing down your breathing will change your energy state, and that will give you the first steps of how to use energy. And if you ground yourself as well, even better. So there you go. We've kicked off with a couple of wins before anybody's even showed up. So whatever else happens, if you listen to this, and you slow down your breathing and you stay very zen, then you will feel better. And that is energy in action, my friends. That is energy in action. So there's a lot more nuance to working with energy and stuff like that. But the reason that I decided to do this live today was what I'm finding is that there's a lot of people are waking up. And what does that mean, Adam? What does that mean? Of course, I'm awake. I wouldn't be watching if I wasn't awake. It's incredible how many people are actually awake as far as not asleep in bed right now, but not actually awake. So let's talk what awake is and what awakening is. So awakening is when you suddenly one day realize that your entire perception of reality is not what you thought it was, that things start changing, you start seeing things differently, you start waking up, start seeing the world for what it is, you start seeing beyond the illusion, you start a state of introspection that makes you look into yourself and makes you sort of wake up, makes you question your entire reality. And that is really what happens to most people on the path to awakening. Let's have a look. Oh, I've got Yun in the house. Somebody's watching me behind me. Well, there you go, Yun. Fair play. Fair play to them. The spirit is with me. I work quite a lot with spirit, so that would not surprise me at all, my friend. There's all sorts of advanced entities from this world to the next that may drop in to a live stream like this. And in the world that I play in, that's all completely normal, folks. It's all completely normal. So if you're expecting normal on this live stream, then you're probably on the wrong stream. Normal has left the house. And just as I said, normal has left the house. About half the people that were watching have stopped watching. Well, that is normal for my live streams, folks. They're very niche. They're very niche for you. And for those of you that are new on the stream, that don't know the way that I roll, is that these streams could go down any potential rabbit hole. I read out all the comments, I see where they go, and I vibe with the energy of what comes into the chat. So Yoon is back, and it's YWNN. So I'm going to call you Yoon. It's probably not pronounced that way, but who knows? Thanks for being the first to comment. Let's start with that. What do you think about the current political situation in the United States? For example, the Fed rate. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. And as I do that, I've got 5-star TV on and saying Bangladesh. Well, I've got someone from Bangladesh. Well, welcome. Welcome, 5-star TV. Let's go back to Yoon and let's address that. So for a start, the global economy is very, very broken. Whoever takes over now, who's ever running the country, is taking over a broken system. So the US is currently in more debt than it actually earns. So we're in a debt bubble that's only going to get worse. So I've noticed a lot of people dropped off now. We're starting to talk about the economy, but it's true. It's a terrible situation that you're in. The one thing that I'd say as somebody that is embracing things like digital assets and cryptocurrencies is Trump is very friendly on that front. I don't think Biden did you any favors. I don't think your government generally has done you a lot of any favors for a long time. And that could be said with any government in the world. Don't trust the money system. Most money doesn't actually exist. Now, there's a rabbit hole there. But before we go any further down that, I see I've got all sorts of comments coming in. So we'll go back to that if there's any demand, Yoon. So we've got Sizzle Moon Song is in. Hello, welcome back, Sizzle Moon Song. Welcome back, my Jedi friend. Sizzle Moon Song says, remember, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Eldridge Cleaver, civil rights and Black Panther party leader. Well, fair play, Sizzle Moon Song. I do remember. I do indeed remember. I've got IJA in the house. As Brits, we can only regret letting them have their own country. Well, LJA, what I would say at the moment is we'd probably, as Brits, would probably be better off in their country right now based on what's going on over here. No, stop it, Adam. Don't say any more on that subject. Calm yourself, sir. Calm yourself. 5-star TV's back. Sir, welcome. My Bangladesh Durga Puja. Well, I don't know what Durga Puja is, 5-star TV, but I'll take your word for it. That sounds like the sort of 5-star TV that some people are going to like a lot. Hassan is back. What's up, my Jedi friend? Welcome back, Hassan. Great to have you here, my Jedi friend. I see that we're going to have some interesting times now. The Jedis are showing up on the stream. That's great. Great to have you back, my friend. Let's have a look. Ija, you never let them. They kicked your ass. It's true. That is true. They did kick our ass. They broke free. They broke free from the British Empire. And let's face it, we weren't very nice back then, so we probably deserved that kick in the backside. Sizzle Moon Song says, be well. Well, fair play to you, Sizzle Moon Song. That's exactly the sort of sentiments we like. Let's raise the vibe on this thread. That is why we're here today. We're going to vibe with it. We're going to see where it leads. We're going to raise each other's energy and maybe a bit of controversy. We usually get a few trolls in the house. It's only a matter of time. And I embrace them because they spice things up a little bit. But in the interim, I mean, if there's anything any of you want to share, then go for it. You know me. I'm going to read out all the comments anyway. We just vibe with the tribe here. But what I was talking about today, I was actually just recorded a video before this that I'll release on my channel at some stage down the line. But it seems at the moment that there seems to be some sort of mad global agenda to get everybody feeling very, very tribal. Get you to feel tribal. Lots of people feeling tribal at the moment. Let's have a look. Oh, we've got, is that Elian in the house? Hello from Alabama, my friend. Said hi. Well, hello, my Alabama friend. Oh, no, it's not Alabama. It's Albania. That's me not reading properly. Well, great to have you here, my Albanian friend. The more multinational this live stream is, the better. So, yeah, I know. He's put Albania, not Alabama. Just making sure that you were paying attention, Elian. Yes, I got it right in the end. I did correct myself just before you did. So, fair play. I got there in the end. But maybe this is a Specsavers moment. I should really go to Specsavers, shouldn't I? Let's see. Hassan says, Elian, Albania has an awesome flag. Yes, it does have an awesome flag. Let's have a look. And Elian says, you make mistake like Trump. Well, I used to watch Trump on Celebrity Apprentice, and he made a few mistakes back then as well. No one's perfect, let's face it, Elian. Everyone's going to make mistakes. Especially global leaders that get a bit of megalomania and get the absolute power. Corrupts absolutely. That's what it does. What it does. People get power hungry. They get drunk with power, and it can do funny things to people. So let's see. Hassan says, like Azerbaijan versus Albania war. Yes, we're going back in history. We're going to pick some chosen battles today. So I actually did a bit of research today. I mean, I sort of knew myself, but I asked Perplexity AI, who were the most, who were the five most influential Roman Empire emperors, and or Roman, Roman emperors. I noticed to see that they don't count Julius Caesar. They didn't have him on the list. Maybe because he was deemed a tyrant. Maybe he wasn't officially crowned. I don't know why he didn't make the list. But for Julius Caesar not to be in the top five, I thought was a little bit harsh. It was a little bit harsh. So I've got issues with Perplexity. So that's what I found. It actually had his successor, Caesar Augustus, was number one. So for all of you, you history fans out there, there's a bit of mad trivia. Let me know what you think. If you know anything about the Roman Empire, I'd be interested to get your feedback on that one. Let's have a look. So 5-Star TV is back. Sir, my name is Antor Ray. Antor Ray, well, fair play to you, my Jedi friend. Great to have you here. 5-Star TV, my YouTube channel. Well, Antor, welcome, welcome. And what is 5-Star TV? What do you do, my Jedi friend? What does your TV station show? So I'm happy, just to let you know the way that I roll on these. I'm happy to give anyone's channel a shout out. You can have some gratuitous promotion, and you never know. Maybe someone else will find your channel. Maybe someone will find your channel, but you'll need a good pitch. You'll need to pitch it. You'll need to give people a good reason to go on there. So it's an opportunity to see how you're promoting it as well. I've got Elian back. Look what go on in my country. Our Prime Minister, per artificial intelligence minister, this is a disaster. Elian, I saw that. I actually saw an update. That is mad. I thought it was a joke at first. I did think it was a joke, but that's a really interesting, that's a very interesting debate, because obviously there's two sides to that, isn't there? On the one hand, we don't know who's programmed AI or what their real goals are. So there's actually a human behind it anyway, in some way, shape, or form, unless there's any way of testing the code. But the theory is that you can't corrupt an AI agent. You can't sort of bung them a few quid and make them make terrible decisions, which, let's face it, that happens at a lot of them. It happens. A lot of people, they're too busy feathering their own pockets to do what's good for the people. I mean, you just look at our government. But the housing minister was thrown out, or was evicting people from their house so they could make more money in rent, putting immigrants in. You've got the Angela Rayner, the deputy PM, forgot about her tax bill. Her accountant didn't remember to pay her taxes, funnily enough, taking money out of her kids' trust fund. I mean, it's just corrupt all the way through. In many respects, an AI agent would be infinitely better than our politicians. I'm sure UK, if you ask the people right now, would you replace the current government with AI agents? I'm sure everyone would say yes without even asking any questions, because they're so bad. It's so bad over here that it can't be any worse. And that's the problem, isn't it? With the benchmark that we measure it from. But yeah, that's an interesting hook. So let's have a look. So Hassan says Trajan, Augustus, Nero, Hadrian. Well, that is pretty damn good, Hassan, according to Perplexity, because Trajan was on there, Hadrian was on there, and Augustus was on there. Nero didn't make it. Who else did make it? Marcus Aurelius was one of them, the philosopher. Who had all sorts of problems with Arminius back in the day. But that's another debate, isn't it? The whole Arminius thing. Give me back my legions. Give me back my legion. That was an episode in history that was fairly legendary. Some of you are probably thinking, I don't know what he's talking about. He's some mad history geek. So let's have a look. 5-Star TV. Let's have a look. Okay. Alien. No, it's true. It is true. I did see an update that. And Hassan says Elon Musk did. So Alien says, because there's corruption, but this IA nobody put in jail, who paying for the wrong decisions. Ha 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 ha. So there you go. and Hassan's got Constantine and Belisarius. Well, Belisarius, of course, wasn't an emperor. He was just a great general who single-handedly saved the Byzantine Empire. And because he did such a good job, it was who was it that he helped? Julian, was it? It'll come to me, but it was. Oh, hang on, I'm getting tongue. I'm having a brain clouds now, but it was. Oh, it'll come to me. But the emperor at the time was cowering, and there was a revolution in Constantinople, and he was ready to buckle. And Belisarius, a great general, basically not only stopped the revolution and bailed him out, but he fought off all his enemies. He was a genius at warfare, especially trench warfare, and was so good at repelling his enemies and giving the army confidence that for his great service, he got sacked. He got sacked because the emperor was so worried that the army might follow Belisarius instead of Justinian. That was the emperor, Justinian. Justinian sacked him because he was so scared that the army thought more of Belisarius than it did of Justinian, and they sacked him. But then they had to go back with their tail between their legs when they realized that they couldn't run the army, and they were up against it again, and let Belisarius back in, and he saved their ass again. Yes, Belisarius, there, isn't it? But yes, Justinian, the only reason that anyone will remember him is because of Belisarius. Great generals, absolutely great generals. There you go. There's a little rabbit hole. So, Elian, did you know about that intelligent artificial lot of people remaining without a job? Yeah. Well, Elian, there is big debates there, isn't it? Artificial intelligence is going to take a lot of our jobs. A lot of people are going to be jobless because of artificial intelligence. That just seems to be, it seems to be the way it is, that a lot of people are going to have to pivot and find different alternative ways to make money because AI is coming and is far more efficient than most humans. Why would you deal with it when you get a 24/7 AI that does even better job? Scary but true. So let's have a look. Hassan says, so like a Russell Crowe gladiator move. It really was. Belisarius. Actually, look him up, Hassan. I know you love history, but if you really want to know, go on to a YouTube channel called History Marsh and type in Belisarius. You'll find out exactly what a genius he was. And the channel is History Marsh, Marche. It's a brilliant channel because the guy who narrates it's all about battles, famous battles in history. And the guy tells stories as a storyteller. He's a brilliant storyteller, which is why his channel has an edge as far as I'm concerned. I've watched loads of history stuff, but he really knows how to tell a story and to set the scene. History March is a great resource. It really is, if you're into history. Let's have a look. Anthony Reid. I like British people and have visited London before. Does the monarch benefit the British people? Well, it depends who you ask, Anthony. I think yes. I mean, a lot of tourism comes here. They in some respects, they're very beneficial. So I'm not polarized one way or the other. I do believe I can give you a sort of objective answer to that. I'm neither a massive fan of them nor do I hate them. You know, they do a job, and some people love them and some people hate them. They do definitely bring in tourism. They're part of London that makes it very British. It's part of our USP as a country, our unique selling point. They make it very unique, and there is a tradition there. But they also, there's the other side of it. You know, they can be very divisive. A lot of people, it depends who you ask. If you ask David Icke, he thinks they're a bunch of lizards, which may or may not be true. Who am I to say otherwise? Of course, their roots are all from the Nazis. So we're not allowed to mention that. Don't mention that. They're actually German with Nazi roots, really strong ones. But we're not going to talk about that because we don't mention that as part of the monarchy because they did a good job. I think they generally do stuff and they're entertaining. They really are. When you look at I mean, the trouble in not so entertaining when you look at the likes of Prince Andrew. That's the sort of entertainment you can do without a bit of paedophilia, um, Epstein's friends, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of disgrace. And Prince Harry, obviously another polarizing character. I quite liked Prince Harry. I still sort of do like him, but Meghan Markle, absolutely. There's narcissist central there. So yes, it's a very polarizing topic. I think that the royal family, it depends who you ask. I think they're generally good for the country. I think so. I side more on they're good for the country than they're bad, but I'm certainly not a royalist or a mad fan. So hopefully that gives you some sort of balance in the force there. Hassan said, Anthony, no. Laugh my ass off. Hassan has a different perspective. Let's see, who have we got here? I think cut. I can't even read who name this is. It's, well, tiny writing. Monarchy is living on benefits. Well, that is, of course, one argument. Yes, the monarchy get a lot of money and they don't pay taxes, and a lot of people are upset about that. Why should the richest family in the country, the governing body, the rulers, be able to avoid tax when they're sitting on so much money? So that is one very polarizing part of the monarchy. And a question that I think people are right to ask. Why do they? I mean, it's not like they're short of a bob or two. They're not going to be going down the food bank anytime soon. Let's put it that way. Elian says, in the future, robots marry with human. I think you're right, Elian. I mean, there's actually a few sort of series now that talk about AI integration and how people are actually having relationships with AI agents right now. There's a channel making a lot of money creating AI relationships and AI porn and all of that kind of stuff. And yes, it's certainly trending, and that is going to be a factor, whether people like it or not. Absolutely. It comes with the good, the bad, and the massively dysfunctional. So let's see. And the name that I can't really read here, that's because it's too small. Says council, castles, and all that. Yeah, council, castles. It's a fair enough comment. Hassan's back. YH, YH, I know. History Marsh, oh yes, and Kings and Generals, yeah, brilliant channels, both of them, Hassan, love them. I've watched loads of content on both of those channels. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Anthony says, I do feel sorry for British people paying taxes. Well, it's not so much the paying taxes at the moment, although that is part of the equation. It's the massive inflation, Anthony. Over here, like you go to the shops now in the last 5 years, you can double your bill, treble it in some places because of government printing money, incompetence at the high level, and massive amount of corruption. And that's both from the current government and the previous government. In fact, every government that we've had, which is either one side or the other, two sides of a terrible coin, heads you win, tails we lose kind scenario of our government throughout history. They all feather their own nests, and they're not really very representative of the people, in my own opinion. So let's have a look. I've got Elian. Your page has the name, The Heart Guy. What mind are you, cardiologist? It's a fair question, Elian. Why do I call myself the Heart Guy? Well, there's the official story and there's the real story, but I think you'll probably want the real story, won't you? So from when I used to be a nurse and I used to work in a cardiology ward, and I did that for many years. And I eventually left nursing and I went into business, and I got myself a business coach. It was this Australian guy that told me that I had to have a niche, that I couldn't just be a coach. I couldn't just be a mentor or a coach. I had to have a niche. And he insisted that I had a weekend workshop with him that I paid for. And he told me at the end of day one that if I didn't have a niche, not to bother coming in the next day. So the next day I came in, I still didn't have a niche, and I was sat on the step of the thing thinking, what am I going to tell him my niche is? And I thought, well, I've just worked in a cardiology ward, so I'll tell him I do heart. I'll be the heart guy. So that's the real story. But the fact is, I did work on a cardiology ward, and I do know the psychological effects, or I can predict a heart attack based on your lifestyle choices. So I come at it from a different angle. I definitely do bring a unique spin to heart health and what causes heart attacks. And so there you go. There's two answers coming at it from two different angles. Hassan says, Elion has a spiritual speaker. Fair play. Elion. Hassan, thank you. Let's see. The name I think it's Barat or something. I can't actually read this name, but I keep coming back. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Prince Andrew reverting to Islam? I didn't realize he had reverted to Islam. I mean, in order to revert to something, I think you had to be there in the first place, didn't you? You can either convert, which means you go there, but reverting means you changed from it and then you went back to it. So I don't believe he did revert to Islam. I don't know anything about Prince Andrew and anything to do with him being Islamic. But let's face it, it wouldn't matter whether he was or he wasn't. I mean, he's a known paedophile. So whether he's reverting to Islam or not, that's probably the lesser of the things that people would have to be upset about Prince Andrew right now. And as far as Prince Andrew is concerned, well, from his perspective, I suggest that he would keep a very low profile, very low one. Let's see. Anthony says, it's a new religion, Prince Andrew religion, of Chesterism. Well, whatever religion he's in, I think most people are going to be out as a result of that. Elian says, Hassan, I'm not a spiritual speaker. Hassan says, Elian, YH, this guy is. There you go. Elian, who the heart guy? Question mark. Elian, Hassan says, yes. Elian, the heart guy, is really very good person. I like his voice and his logic about everything. You are really good. God bless you. Why, thank you, Elian and Hassan. It's very kind of you both to say that. Very kind of you both to say that. I appreciate both of you for your kind words. So it's actually quite interesting that we've come this long into the stream. I haven't had a single trolling comment. I'm starting to feel a little bit uneasy. This is great. Maybe I'm being teed up here. Anthony's back on. Let's see. When Prince Andrew was in the US, they had Operation Chromogate. Playground extraction specialists were deployed. Well, I wouldn't know anything about that, Anthony, but one thing that I would be fairly confident about is that anything that Prince Andrew is up to is probably not going to be good. It's probably not going to be a good thing for the rest of humanity, and keep your kids locked up if he's in the area. That would be the advice that I'd give. As Anne says, did your family have run-ins with the black and tans? So no is the answer. My dad was not religious. He never made me be religious, but he was born a Protestant, so he wouldn't have had problems with the black and tans. He was officially the other side of the divide, Hassan. But what my dad did do, one of his good mates was a Catholic, and he used to go out drinking and partying with Catholics. So if the black and tans had caught him while he was out, he could have got himself in trouble, and not even warranted it. So my dad was like a specialist agent. He was a spy, but he wasn't there to get information. He was just there to have a good time with both religions. If there was a party, my dad wanted in. And that was his relationship moving between different religions. And just to bring that to life, my granddad was in Bomber Command in World War II. He flew about 35 missions. Officially, he should have been dead about 3 times based on the kill stats, but he was very lucky. And one of his friends was in Bomber Command with him, was the pilot. And the pilot converted religion to marry the woman of his dreams, became a Catholic. And they were close, so close that their kids grew up calling the other person uncle. So this guy's kids called my granddad Uncle David, and my dad grew up calling his mate Uncle Niall. So when he used to go to the Catholic part of Belfast and people were trying to work out where my dad was from, as soon as he said to his friend Michael, who was the son of Niall, um, he'd say, "How is Uncle Niall?" And as soon as he said that, everybody accepted him as a Catholic. And it was the same when he brought Niall into the Protestant areas, like, "How is Uncle David?" So these two guys were able to break the rules. Now you have to put this in perspective, guys, because back in Belfast in the 60s, especially when my dad was there, 50s and 60s when he was growing up there, if anyone had known that he was a Protestant in a Catholic area, he could have died, could have been killed. So, I mean, he was really dicing with death in many respects, to go partying with the other side, so to speak. There you go. There's a bit of mad, chaotic family background for you. Let's see, what have we got here? Hassan said, "Did your family?" Oh yeah, you've just read that. Elian, heart guy, if I can ask you like to gamble slot machines. No, that's not my thing, Elian. I have done in the past, many, many moons ago, but I haven't put any money in a slot machine for at least conservatively 25 years. They're not my thing. The house always wins on slot machines. So I like to, if I'm going to bet, I like to at least have odds in my favor, or to know the odds I'm getting, or to have fair odds. Fair odds. So I used to work in a pub, and I see how much money the slot machines make. They're designed for you to lose and for the house to win. So they're not the odds that do it for me, my friend. Let's have a look. Hassan says, Niall from One Direction was created that day. Absolutely. Who knows, Elian? Who knows? Or Hassan, rather. Elian is true in the UK has houses of spiritual black magic. There probably are, Elian. You get all sorts over here. Like our own ancient traditions are in the Celtic, which is all about, mad spirituality. I'm not so sure it could be called black magic, but there's definitely some dark entities over here, that's for certain. And they ain't going to be advertising it either. So in the world of energy that I work in, I have met some very, very dark entities. And here's a bit of mad trivia. In my travel days, I ended up going to party with witch doctors in South Africa. And that was really energizing for me. They were actually very welcoming to me for going there. I was there with somebody who'd recently joined them and brought me in. So yeah, there's a bit of mad trivia. I've partied with witch doctors on 2 different occasions. That was scary and uplifting in equal measure, I can tell you that. But yes, Elian, I would imagine they are, but I don't know anything about them, and I haven't had any direct contact with them. But one thing's for certain, there's definitely some dark energy here, and I don't need to see it to know it. That's for certain. Hassan says, Elian, the UK has all sorts of weird stuff. Yeah, couldn't put it better myself. It's druid magic, like Celtic practices. Yeah, we've got, it used to be Celtic here. In fact, it was the Romans when they first invaded. It was Celtic traditions that they were getting themselves into. But of course, the Roman army was a bit too strong for them. They wiped out a lot of the Celtic tradition here, but they could never take it away. Because Celtic ran throughout Ireland and it ran throughout Europe as well. It wasn't specifically one country. Druids and Celtic and the old ways, which people call them the old ways, was actually connecting with nature and spirits and stuff. I actually think it has a lot more relevance in today's society than most other stuff. But that's just my slant on it. That's just my slant. Let's have a look. Elian, Hassan, in the UK, there are licensed spiritual homes. This is true. So when you say licensed spiritual homes, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Elian. But one thing I will tell you from someone that's done all sorts of energy training is whatever you're looking for in the UK, you will find it. You will find it. Seek and you will find, my Jedi friend. There's all sorts going on over here. Whatever you're into, you will definitely find it over here. That's for certain. That is for certain. Let's see. So Anthony says, have you ever heard of the Queen's English? Well, of course. I was born in England. Hassan says, Elion, yes, I would imagine so. Hassan says, Anthony, yes. What aristocrats speak. So the Queen's English, as I understand, would probably sound something like this, my dear fellows. I think that's how most of the world interpret the Queen's English. And that's why when I go to the States and I travel a lot in the States, most people think I'm from Australia because I don't speak like this, my good fellow. Or ask for the cucumber sandwiches, no doubt, no doubt. So there you have it, my Jedi friends. There you have it. I'm going to have a sip of tea. It's a sip of tea time, folks. It's sip of tea time. So what else is happening? This is actually a good time because one thing that I do, chaps, is I'm all about raising energy, raising vibration. You asked about the heart guy earlier. What's that about? I teach people how to raise their energy and to do it easily. And part of that is to just sit there and slow down your breathing, because your breathing controls your mood. So that's one way that you can actually feel better just here and now. So let's have a look. Oh, I've got in a couple more comments. Let's see now. So Hassan says, one would like a pinch of salt on thy steak. Exactly. And Elion Hassan in Auran says, black magic exist in Shaw Baccarat. Speak about that. Well, and Anthony says, thanks, Hassan. Well, look, folks, black magic does exist. I mean, for certain. Like as I say, I've actually been to a witch doctor party, and I've seen how they operate, and I've heard some of the stuff that goes down there. And one thing that I do know is a lot of the reason that it's so big. I mean, part energy. I know how energy works. So now that I understand that, I understand how black magic works in principle and how it works. And it works so powerfully for two reasons. One, amplified energy fields, they influence things. And I'll talk about that. I'll go back to that in a minute. And the other thing is placebo effect. If someone believes that someone has power, then they do. So most people believe that a doctor has power. So because of something called the placebo effect, if a doctor hands out Smarties or just sweets or candy and says these are going to heal you, then due to the stats, about 30% of people will heal because they just believe that the doctor has power. It'll be their own mind, their belief that does it. And this is something called the placebo effect that's been studied en masse. And also group amplification energy fields. This is something else that's been studied en masse. We're really going down a rabbit hole with this one, Adam. Do we open this up? Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. So let's just read out a couple of comments. So Anthony says, oh, thy steak, lol. Elian says, in World War II, the first inventors of radar to detect aircraft were the English. Well, we have been quite clever. Like we did invent the internet over here as well. Like a lot of good inventions happened in England. But to go back to the amplified energy, folks, I know this is a bit of a segue, but since my channel is about energy, you might as well hear this. So there was a guy in the 60s called Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he came over to the West to prove that transcendental meditation works. And he would take a group of 300 transcendental meditators into major cities in the United States, and they'd ask the police, when is your highest crime time? And so they measured, parts of the week where they had their biggest crime stats. And these 300 guys would sit down and meditate on peace. And what they found was that the crime rates went down by roughly, I think it was about 20%, roughly. 300 people in a major city, and they tested it over and over and over. And they did all sorts of experiments. Now, without me going into great detail, if you're interested, look up the Maharishi effect, because this is fascinating stuff that shows when lots of people think the same thing, it influences outcomes globally. There you go. There's a bit something a bit trippy for you folks. That's a bit trippy, but yeah, that's a rabbit hole for you if you're interested in energy and how it works. So let's have a look. Hassan says, power resides where people believe it resides. Game of Thrones reference. Exactly. Now we can go into Game of Thrones. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't that a great bit of TV? Some brilliant quotes there, wasn't it? Some great characters in that. And I loved the loads of good interactions there. But I mean, Tyrion Lannister, what a character. What a great character he turned out. He got all the best lines, him and Bronn. They had some great lines. And the Hound, what a funny. There's a video on there, the best, I think it's a 5-minute video. It's like 5 minutes of the Hound being the Hound. And whenever I put that on, I end up laughing out loud. He's got some great lines, some really great lines, the Hound. Some of my favorite characters in there. Anthony says, when I was in London, I seen everybody in the world but British. That's about right, Anthony. See, London's been like that for years, but at the moment we've got this mad immigration thing going in where they're flooding Europe with migrants, illegal migrants, and maybe some of them illegal, but you definitely feel it in London. It feels like a foreign country now. It does feel like a foreign country. I mean, London's always been traditionally multicultural and very accepting, and I've traveled a lot in the world. Like London's always been, really good for multicultural things. But what the government's doing now is just sinister. It's cynical and sinister, and it's not just happening here either. There's some mad global agenda going on. But I could be a conspiracy theorist, folks. That could be me. Let's see. Alien, I see your glass of tea has a photo of 3 mans. What mind that photo? Well, this actually, my sister brought this back from Iceland. Look, this is an Icelandic Vikings that you see there. And I love this cup because I think if you're going to have a cup of tea, you might as well do it properly, mightn't you? It's like a proper cup. These tiny cups, I don't really get it. I like to let the bag just stew in the top and have a decent amount of tea. So it hydrates me properly. There you go. But yeah, I love that cup. I love it. And as Hassan will tell you, like I love the Vikings as well. All of the Vikings programs are brilliant. We talked about Last Kingdom on the last stream and the Vikings, both of them brilliant series. So yeah, that's I'm not sure I'd want to be a Viking or live in Viking times. I'm not saying that at all, folks, because that would have been brutal, absolutely brutal. But it's a fascinating era and it makes great TV. Let's have a look. Hassan says, what's a lommy? Let's have a look. Yeah, what's a lommy? That sounds grown. The greatest swordsman that ever lived got beaten by, what was his name? John. He didn't have a sword. The greatest swordman that ever lived, he didn't have a sword. Some brilliant quotes. And of course, my particular favourite. Lots of people name their swords. I can't say the quote next because it'll probably get me delisted. But you will definitely know, Hassan, what came next there. Hassan says yes. That was in the 90s. I would have liked to see smaller towns in the UK. They are probably different than London. Well, I've found wherever I travel, Anthony, whenever you get outside the capital city, you get a completely different experience. It's no different in the UK. It's no different. Especially if you go up to northern towns, they tend to be a lot friendlier. It's way more friendly in the north. So I lived in Sheffield for a year and it blew me away that I could go into a local pub where I knew no one and people would say hello to me. That will very rarely happen in London. In fact, I don't think it's never happened to me in London where a stranger has said hello to me walking in the pub. Never. It's never happened. But up in Sheffield, it used to happen all the time. So, and not only that, down in Cornwall, Devon, they're friendly parts of the world as well, generally when you get out of cities. But it was the same. I did a road trip in the States. I drove from New Jersey to LA, and then I drove up to Seattle and then across the top. So I did a coast to coast and back again. And I did the West Coast, went up the West Coast on a massive road trip. And part of the game was that apart from LA, where we had to drop off the car that we were using, and San Francisco that we went to stay because that was an interesting place, we had a rule. And Seattle. We stayed in Seattle. They were the only three cities that we stayed in. Otherwise, we spent that whole trip staying in places with populations of less than 5,000 people. And that was great fun. It was great fun making friends with people in the middle of nowhere in the States. It was one of the friendliest places. We would go in knowing no one at like 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. And by 12 o'clock midnight, we would be like the talk of the town. Usually the barman's phoning up all his mates, telling you've got to come and meet these guys. They're from England. You're from England. Is that New England? Used to get that all the time. It was great fun. Great fun traveling through the States. Let's have a look. Let's see. Hassan says, Anthony, Rochdale, Warrington have small countryside towns. Yeah, as I say, go up north. It's a completely different experience. It's great fun. Great fun. Traveling around northern towns. Had some fun there. Newcastle as well. Had some fun there. That's a lively place, lively part of the world. If, of course, you can understand what they're telling you. I struggle and I speak English like I don't know how people that speak English as a second language really cope in Newcastle. It's an interesting part of the world. So let's have a look. Hassan says, must have been quite a man to take you down. Sept Ray, it was a woman. What about the when Tyrion gets caught by Shagger, Shagger, son of Dolph? How would you like to die? He's a 80-year-old with a belly full of wine and a woman up on my cock. It just had so many brilliant lines in that series. They must have had great fun. The guy must have had great fun writing that. It was just brilliant, absolutely brilliantly done. The characters were so well developed. It's just a shame. I think it was after season 5 they couldn't wait for him to write the book, so they went carte blanche. They started doing their own thing, and we started to lose an edge. But it was great. It was absolutely great the way that the characters were developed in that. Let's have a look. Let's see. Elian. It's so beautiful, this cup. Oh, thank you, Elian. Yeah, I do like it. I've had it for about 10 years now. And it's even, because I drink herbal tea, it's all brown inside. So it's not, I keep it with, it's got the tea. It's a bit dark. I don't know if it'll pick up here. Look, you can see. There you go. Look, I don't wash the inside. That's part of the tea phenomenon. I keep my mug like that. So yeah, that's one of my quirky things. The tea accumulates is probably like pure caffeine. It's probably pure caffeine stuck to the side of that. It's a winner. Let's see. Thoros of Mir, you have friends. He was a character as well. I loved them. And after all that being brought back, he said, wouldn't it be a shame that the Lord of Liars brought you back 7 times for me to throw you off the top of the castle? Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Hassan, Hound, not anymore. It really is absolutely brilliant. There's some brilliant stuff in that. Elian, heart guy. I see beautiful girls in nightclub London streets. Are that true? Yeah, it's true, Elian. In fact, any major city in the UK, if you go to nightclubs, you'll see plenty of very scantily clad, beautiful girls. That was certainly the case in my younger years. And if you go to Newcastle or Liverpool, the northern towns, in the middle of winter, like -degrees, they don't wear coats either. I mean, they go out dressed in like what looks like swimwear. It's unbelievable, like how resilient they are. How scantily clad women walk around in northern towns in the middle of winter. It never ceases to amaze me. So there's definitely a lunatic gene that runs through them as well, through here. So that's been one thing that always fascinated me about my little trips to the north. There's all sorts of madness that you see when you do that. But that's part of the quirkiness of it. But my night clubbing days are over now. Well, I wouldn't say they're completely over, but it's certainly not something I do with any sort of regularity. It's been a good while since I did any sort of night clubbing. You know, I prefer a quiet night in with my feet up and the History Channel. That's how sad I am these days, folks. That's what age does to you. You know, that's a content night, is a quiet night where I can watch whatever I want. I can just chill. I can just chill out. Hassan says, Varys, you've great experience at making eunuch jokes, but take offense at dwarf jokes. Why, Tyrion? Because I have balls. Wasn't it clever, like all of the interactions between the key characters, like Varys and Tyrion? I mean, they were brilliant. Tyrion and Bronn, and the Hound, and Arya. I mean, it's just brilliant. All of the little, the characterization of the character build-up, and how they made such evil villains. I mean, Joffrey did such a good job. And you know, he's never acted since. He left afterwards and still gets abused when he goes out. He went into theatre after that, I think. Imagine doing such a good job at playing a character that you're getting hate outside. I mean, that tells me that's just how good he was. He did a brilliant job, absolutely brilliant job. In fact, I mean, it's marginal. We had a debate. We asked who were the most evil villains in Game of Thrones, and I mean, Joffrey was only rivaled by what's his face that cut off, it created Reek. What was his name? It escapes me at the moment, but it will come back. It will come back to me. But yeah, you know what I'm on about here. Eating the sausage in front of the Battle of the Bastards. Yeah, that was great. It was really great. And what I loved about it, you know, I was surprised how many people watched the first episode. And obviously you're seeing the Night Walkers in the first episode, and they thought, oh no, this isn't going to be it. But that like small scene of Night Walkers, it has no real context for the whole first season. Like it sets people up in the wrong direction. Ramsay Bolton, that's it. Hassan, fair play. Ramsay Bolton, you mean? Yes, absolutely. I mean, who would you give the most evil villain between those two? I mean, because they were definitely the top two contenders for me. You could say others, but I mean, they really played brilliant characters, brilliantly characterized. I mean, especially Joffrey, because he was the only one, he didn't really have any substance. He had his position, that was it. I mean, but he couldn't fight. He was a bit of a wimp, and he was a total coward, especially leaving the fighting when they're defending their own wall. Oh, what, my mum needs me? Did she say it was urgent? Yes, Euron and Cersei. So Euron, I didn't think that he was brilliant. I mean, he was okay, but in light of the others. Cersei, yes, I'll give you that, Hassan. I mean, Cersei played a brilliantly evil character. Yes, she did do a fantastic job. There's no question of it. Let's see. I've got Amber. Amber Dawn is in the house. Hi, Heart Guy. Did you get to see the eclipse over yonder there? Well, is there an eclipse? Is there even a? Is that tonight, Amber? I'm not quite sure. So the answer would be no if it's tonight. But I'm usually pretty good. I've seen quite a few eclipses, and I do a lot of lunar streams as well because I generally talk about energy, and energy tends to flow really strong during lunar events. So if it's a full moon or a new moon, they're great energetic times to amplify your energy. So is it a full moon tonight? I didn't even notice. But yes, I've done many live streams to amplify energy during a full moon or a new moon because what they do is they amplify energy. So yes, we can really go down that rabbit hole if you wish. But interesting time. And I used to work night shifts, so I used to see the effect of the moon on hospitals and how it affected patients. There you go. And Hassan says, what about Tywin? Yes, of course. I mean, Tywin was brilliant. But you sort of expect it from Charles Dance. I mean, he was, in fairness, he was an established actor, an established character with a very strong script. And I kind of expected him to be good. And he was. He didn't disappoint. I mean, Joffrey, I didn't really see coming. He was like, who is this? And he just got increasingly more evil and then getting drunk with power as well. The way he was, the way that he played him was brilliant. The sort of the build up that he really was a nothing. He just got smacked around by Tyrion, you know, in the initial things, and then just got even more and more evil. It was incredible. It was good stuff. It's very good stuff. Amber says, I can't remember what time it was supposed to be visible in New Zealand. Well, fair play, Amber. I mean, let's talk about that. So, I used to work night shifts in a hospital for over a decade. I worked nights. And at first, it was a little joke. When there were some nights where the ward used to go mad, and I mean really mad. People would change personality in the middle of the night. It was like something out of Game of Thrones. I could have a completely normal conversation with somebody at 10 o'clock in the evening, give them a cup of tea, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, they were screaming abuse. Get out my fucking house, get out. You know, they'd wake up thinking that they were in their house and that we'd invaded it. And sometimes some of the language was unbelievable. Sometimes they were throwing stuff, breaking things, waking people up and telling them to get out their house. I mean, it was massively disruptive. It was really it was inexplicable. And what we found is whenever that happened, it was during a full moon cycle. So the whole phenomenon of lunatic really made sense to us. I mean, and I saw it time and time and time and time and time again. Whenever the ward went mad, it was on a full moon cycle. So I've actually seen how the moon affects people, especially when they're ill. And if they've got a breathing disorder or some sort of infection, then that really amplifies lunacy. A full moon will amplify lunacy. So there you go. That's there's a little rabbit hole for you, which I'm happy to go down should you wish to. Hassan says he's an incredible actor. He really is. I mean, let's face it, Charles Dance is just brilliant. He is just brilliant, and he always has been. I've got great time. So I guess the only reason I didn't mention him is because I would expect a high standard from Charles Dance. You sort of, you know, I wasn't surprised by his character because he's such a good actor. But I'd never heard of the guy that played Joffrey. And, you know, I hadn't, or Ramsay, I'd never heard of either of them. So these were like people I'd never heard of that came out and surprised me. They surprised me that, you know, new actors could do such a good job. They really did. They really took their they took it to a new level. They took their opportunity and they ran with it. So let's have a look. So Hassan says, do you know Japanese history? Well, I know a little bit, Hassan. I mean, not much. I mean, I love Shogun. Let's start there. And Shogun is based on a true story. There was actually an Englishman that made it to the Japans back in the day. They completely disrupted the balance of power because the Portuguese were over there. And of course, the Japanese were formidable. They were a formidable army, but their navy was a little bit dodgy. So I know that about the Japanese. I also know that it was a storm that saved them, that samurai, what was it? Kamikaze is divine wind. And divine wind came from when the Mongols tried to invade them, and they couldn't beach the ships because a divine wind came in, a storm came in that stopped the Mongols from invading Japan. So I know little bits, and obviously Tokunaga, um, obviously the whole Shogun thing, and I did look into it and saw the central characters, but I wouldn't say that I was very well versed in it. I certainly wouldn't be an expert, but I was fascinated by the whole samurai culture. And not only that, I watched a documentary on what was the best weapon. They had a lot of weapons experts. If you could only pick one, pound for pound, what was the best weapon that was ever designed? And you had people representing each thing, but the thing that won it was the Japanese samurai sword. Was actually voted it was the best weapon because of the way that it's made and designed, and its effectiveness. So there you go. Yeah, that's all I know, Hassan. I wouldn't say that I knew much more than that. Amber says, "Oh yeah, that's a good experience. Hospital at night. Well, you really did. You ask any nurse that's worked nights, Amber, they'll tell you the same thing. Yeah, it absolutely had an effect. I saw it as well working in nursing homes. And personally, I can feel the full moon like yikes. Well, you'll know it, Amber. I mean, nursing homes, same deal, same deal. So you would have seen it. You would have seen how the moon affects people, especially when they're not well, and the effect it can have on people's personalities. The movie on Darwin called Creation was a good one. I've not seen that, Amber, but I may have to look into it. Especially, I mean, Darwin was quite a character. Hassan says, British actors mostly in it, bruv. Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking Sengoku areas, Turkish Kilish. Well, fair play. Well, on your point about the British actors, my dad was Irish, and he used to watch a lot of war movies. And quite often, the Americans used to play the Allied generals, and the British used to play the Germans. My dad used to say that the gap in acting was so bad that he used to he used to be a German Sith. He used to think that he used to hope that Germany would actually win at some point. So there we go. And Hassan says Game of Thrones are mostly British actors. Yeah, I mean there's some great actors in there, and of course it brought a lot of new people. It gave a lot of opportunities. Game of Thrones gave a lot of opportunities to a lot of careers were made from Game of Thrones, and I love that. I love that you get lucky break, something can happen, and that's it. You're sorted. You've made your career, and it really is that thing about being ready for great opportunities. The opportunities are luck meeting preparation, timing and preparation. That's what luck is. It's not having the lucky break. It's being ready for the lucky break when it comes, and that takes practice and planning and expertise and readiness. And as you'll know, Hassan, like in the game of battles or the Game of Thrones, you've got to have a well-drilled army and a great opportunity, and somebody good leading them. Some great leaders out there, especially beating insurmountable odds. Talking about beating insurmountable odds, I was looking at some of the battles that Napoleon fought, especially when he went to Egypt, and he was attacked. It was an uprising. There was basically the entire Muslim nation rose up and sent huge armies to attack him. And he frequently beat off like 10-1 odds, frequently. And these are battles no one's really heard of. Don't even mention, because Napoleon won so many battles, there's so many that don't even get mentioned. But he got absolutely hammered. And not only that, but the British, they ganged up with the Muslims to try and get Napoleon out. They burned all his ships and stranded him in Egypt at one stage. And what's interesting is that Napoleon not only brought an army, he brought a load of archaeological experts with him. He found the Rosetta Stone. The reason that we know so much about Egypt is because of Napoleon and the discoveries he made when he was over in Egypt. In fact, the whole study of Egyptology came from Napoleon finding the Rosetta Stone. There you go. There's a bit of mad historical context for you. So let's have a look here. Hassan says, Starks would have won if he was more clear-headed rather than being like Ned Stark. Well, I think that was the whole point, though, Hassan, wasn't it? That good people rarely win. That if you're too good, you'll get screwed over. I mean, even look what happened. Look what happened to all the Starks. They all got screwed, even doing the ultimate good at the end and killing Daenerys. I mean, he didn't actually win anything for it, did he? Just got thrown into obscurity. So, I think that was pretty much the message, wasn't it? That sometimes you've got to be a bit bad. You've got to be bad. You can't win wars being good all the time. Let's have a look. Amber says, I thought you'll mention Darwin somewhere. Listening on newer, truer history has been pretty fun. The things coming unconcealed, pretty fun times, really, in that sense. I pray everything is revealed. Well, do you know what? I mean, it's interesting because me and Hassan, we have, when he's on my last live stream, we went down this mad history thing, and for me, when you find like history buffs like yourself, and it's always tempting to go down certain rabbit holes, isn't it? And I spend hours watching historical battles and finding out about stuff that happened in the past, because I think the more that you learn about history, the more you realize we've learned nothing. As a species, we've learned nothing, absolutely nothing at all about anything. The most powerful always tries to dominate, and they always they always have their day and find someone more powerful that takes over, and that has been what's happened throughout history. And it just fascinates me when you find things like the Roman Empire that lasted so long. Yeah, because although Rome got sacked round about the 6th century, they'd already founded an Eastern Roman Empire, which was Constantinople, or Istanbul as it is today, which didn't get overthrown by Mehmed and the Ottoman Empire until round about the 16th century, round about then. So the Roman Empire went from predated Christ by several hundred years and lasted right the way through till 16th century. So there you go. Fascinates me. What caused it? How did they do it? And it wasn't through being nice, that's for sure. They were not nice people. But if you've got absolute power, who's going to tell you otherwise? That's the problem. And they were still making the same mistakes today. So there you go. Hassan says, Napoleon career ended in Russia. A bad move. That was a bad move. It was a bad move. As my dad used to say, there were two generals Napoleon couldn't beat, and that was the Russian winter, January and February. January and February, the two generals he was never going to win against. They were terrible. It was a terrible disaster. That was his lowest point, I believe. Well, probably dying would have been his lowest point, but yeah, that was pretty bad. But what's interesting is Napoleon won more battles than Julius Caesar, Frederick the Great, Alexander the Great, and several other generals. You can pretty much throw them in. I mean, Alexander, people forget this. They say Alexander the Great was the greatest. He won, I think, 9 major battles. I mean, they were pretty damn good wins. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But there were two things about Alexander. One, it was 9 battles he won. I mean, a lot of his, he killed his best mate for trying to level up with him. And not only that, when he died, his empire fell apart and all his family got killed because he left no legacy plan. So was he really that great? Yes, he was great at killing people and winning battles, but he wasn't a successor. I mean, his dad handed him a silver spoon. I'm going down the history rabbit hole, aren't I? Stop it, Adam. Stop your history rabbit hole. Stop it. No. Rein yourself in, Adam. Read some comments. Let's see. San says, Starks actually won. Bran became king of kingdoms. Sansa became queen of the north, and Arya becomes an explorer. That's true, Hassan. Yes, that is true. That is true. Amber says, everyone is seeking his glory day in the hot sun. Yes. Most Brits will get their glory day in the hot sun, and all they'll end up is with sunburn. Let's have a look. And Hassan says Mehmed in 1453. That's right, it's the 15th century. I stand corrected, Hassan. Good call. Good call. Yeah, it hadn't been breached the walls of Constantinople for 1,000 years. So it was a pretty big deal what Mehmed did. And that would have been great for Mehmed if he hadn't then gone and lost against this tiny army somewhere in, I think it was in Prague or somewhere like that, got absolutely routed by by a peasant army and a couple of spirited knights. So yeah, he had one brilliant win and one absolutely devastating defeat. Let's see, Amber's back. Choncho, I will have my glory day in the hot sun. Okay, absolutely. And Hassan says, YH, his generals split up the empire. Yeah, they did. They also killed his family. They killed his son. All of his heirs got wiped out. They got absolutely massacred. It was pretty rough on him. And Amber says, I get a little bit Genghis Khan. Don't want to get on with it with nobody else but me. Or Genghis Khan. I mean, there was a dude. He was a lunatic. But one thing about Genghis, I mean, he really was. He was the complete paradox of people, Genghis, because if you surrendered to him, he let you study your religion, and as long as he was your ruler, he just let you get on with it. He was very tolerant, very accepting of other people's culture. But if you didn't surrender to him, he wiped out everybody, women, children. And one of the things he used to do, he was absolutely brutal. Like to the survivors, what he used to do is march them in front of his army to the next destination. So that's where cannon fodder came in. Genghis used to march his enemies in front of his army, so they got taken out first. So imagine that, marching in the front of an army where you know you're going to get killed if you keep marching forward. And if you turn around and retreat, you're going to get killed as well. Now that's called bad luck. Bad luck, that is. Hassan says, no sunburn for us. Black and tans. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we weren't very nice with our black and tans. Just ask the Irish. Amber says, you need the hot sun. I feel for you. Absolutely. Well, we all need a bit of sun occasionally, Amber. Well, this has been a lovely thread. It's been interesting. This has been the first live stream that I've done. I haven't had any trolling at all. It feels a little bit, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy. Maybe I'll have to go. I don't know what's happening, folks. It has been quite a pleasant one. So thank you all for joining me today, especially you guys that have been in the chat. I appreciate it, especially Amber and Hassan there for the latter part, who have kept me entertained, and for Anthony, who jumped in, and Elion earlier. So especially the four of you, thank you all for keeping engaged and keeping it going. And Amber says, thank you, Heart Guy. It's always nice to see you. Well, thank you, Amber. That's very kind. Very kind of you to say. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for the very upbeat threads that we've had today. And I'm off to watch documentaries about Darwin now, or maybe a few more battles that may pop up on my YouTube thread. Or maybe I'll just watch another 5 minutes of the Hound's favourite quotes. Because that's always good for a laugh. Well, my Jedi friends. Oh, look, just I'm saying bye. Connie Thomas has jumped in and said hi. Hi, Connie. You've just caught me at the end of the live stream. But I appreciate you jumping on. Thank you for joining us, albeit late. So at this stage, I'm just wrapping things up here and saying goodbye to everyone. We've been having all sorts of history chats today, and we've talked about Game of Thrones a lot. So that has been the content that we've really gone down today. It has been a bit of good-natured chat away on those two subjects. But I shall love you all and leave you now, my Jedi friends. I appreciate you all for jumping on to this live stream and showing up and for your good calls. And yeah, as I say, I'm off to watch a bit of trash TV or historical drama. Who knows? I haven't quite decided yet. But whatever you decide to do, wherever you may be in the world, I wish you a very energizing week, my Jedi friends. Have a good one, and I shall catch you all again soon. Take care.